hurt, it's because somewhere along the line between the earth, your feet, we transmit power to these smaller parts from the earth up through our center.
Welcome back to another episode of Bass Bites. I'm super excited to have my good friend Norwood here with me today. Of people that have really influenced my playing, and specifically the ease and ergonomics in my playing, Norwood is top of the list. We've been friends for 15, 20 years. He's helped me, several Nashville players, including Tim May, Nate Lee, Steve Smith, to name a few. And he has chiropractic knowledge. He's a movement specialist and a healer and a musician and an upright bass player. So I've been really lucky to get to know Norwood and to get just expert practical advice throughout the years of my playing. So welcome to Bass Bites, Norwood.
Thank you. This is so fun.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're doing this because it's going to really provide information to people that they don't get.
You are the only person who has provided this information to me.
Yeah, I'm sure it's out there.
Right. And
I know I'm not the only one.
Sure.
Right?
And some of the things that we've kind of introduced in the past, we may reiterate here, and you'll get a different perspective and get to hear it from the source that I got it from, just including how you're getting your bass to work with you. And one of the big points that Norwood brought up to me that was immediately kind of mind-blowing was that you adjust the bass to you, not the other way around, or any instrument, right?
Yeah. I think people play better and they're less prone to injury when they make their instrument fit them rather than trying to wrap themselves around an immovable object.
Right.
You know, it really creates a lot of problems when you do that. And actually injuries happen when you sustain an immovable position or a repetitive position that's out of alignment with your body. So you want to keep yourself in alignment and then make your instrument work with your alignment. So for example, you can see that Ann's about 5'5", and the typical wisdom for bass players, especially classical players, is that the nut is going to be at the top of your head. And if you look at, say, Edgar Meyer, you'll see that. But part of that's because they arco, they use bow, right?
Right.
You're a French player, right?
My teacher Paul Sharp was a French player, so I learned to do French with him. But I typically go back and do German because it's been a little more comfortable for my hands and for switching between arco and pits, which is for my style of playing what I do. So I go back and forth.
Right. For me, the ergonomics of the German was so much easier for my body. And when I started looking at why that was, this big muscle back here, the latissimus dorsi.
That one.
Yeah, say that 3 times. We can pull easier this way than this way. And you can see.
So you can try this whether you've got a bow or not. And if you kind of feel your lat there under your arm, you can feel how that engages this way. In a similar way, if you're plucking, it doesn't engage in the same way.
And I've found,
which is an interesting
for
thing.
me, that the stress on my wrist from the French was the ergonomics. You have to be so much more on point with this, with your bowing. Yeah, so that's something for you to consider in terms of your pizzicato as well, your plucking hand, because you always want to have your smallest part of your body connected to the engine. If you hurt, it's because somewhere along the line between the earth, your feet, we transmit power to these smaller parts from the earth up through our center. And if you disconnect yourself from your center and the earth, then this is left out here to act all by itself. It's not very strong. Your whole body is strong. The tip of your finger's not. So if we watch Ann play a little bit.
And if I'm thinking about connecting my feet, because I was going to say there's a lot of exercises that I think we tend to think, I'm doing little finger push-ups or something, you know. But then if I start thinking about the rest of my body, for one, I start moving more.
So I want you to really watch her arm movement and understand that this how she's creating her sound is really this whole arm, not her fingers. So watch again and you'll see how the elbow is moving in and out. Now we're going to make a small adjustment here for Ann and see how this goes for her volume and her tone. So what I want you to do is think about your left hip, the hip that's on the bass. Now most bass players are right-handed, so sorry about you lefties. It applies, you just have to flip everything over. And so this hip is connected to this shoulder, and if I drop this hip, it pulls my shoulder. So you don't want that big a movement, but you want your body-mind connection connected to your hips. So this time when you pitch, if you could think about rotating a little bit from your hip and see what that does to your sound and your tone. How does it feel?
Feels a little easier.
It's easier.
And I think part of that is when you focus on maybe a different body part, or we've talked about focusing on breath too, is that then the rest of my body relaxes
You relax.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that whole getting rid of tension thing, right?
Yeah,
and so any way we can.
Tension kills tone. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's true for, it's talked about a lot with horn players. Tension kills tone, but it's true for every instrument.
Yeah. So speaking.
I noticed a change in your volume right away.
Yeah, and well, hopefully that translates, and you guys can hear that too.
Right.
Speaking of horn players, you have a book that you have published, and that has concepts that really will translate to any instrument, and even if you're not playing an instrument, of just how to avoid pain and alleviate that, and be more connected in your body and in your playing and anything that you're doing.
Yes, thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
You know, I found that principles are something that underlie all playing. And so the things we're talking about really will translate to guitar, mandolin, violin, cello.